I stay hot. Let me shoot a 7 with every shot. Viva Las Vegas! Viva Las Vegas! Viva Las Vegas! I'm gonna give it everything I've got. Lady luck, please let the...
Welcome to Vegas Talk Radio, the internet radio show about the news, people, entertainment, opportunities, and events in the best resort and vacation destination and fastest growing city in America, Las Vegas, Nevada. If it's worth your time and money, you'll hear about it here. And now, here's your host, Charlie Bass.
For these places where they with lovers and friends, I still can recall. Some are dead and some are living. In my life, I've loved them all.
On today's show, we have a special guest. We have probably one of the nicest looking guests we've ever had, and you can see that on the radio, I'm sure. But she's a young lady who started out on a bet with a boyfriend in a beauty contest because she had never been in a beauty contest, and has gone on to have a career that really is unparalleled. She's been on stage, screen, mainline in Las Vegas, on the Strip for years, Broadway. She's done it all, and she's still one of the most beautiful women you ever see. Her name is Susan Anton. Susan, how are you doing?
Well, after that introduction, I'm doing great. Thank you.
Well, I'm so glad you had you had the time, I guess, to talk to us and get our listeners involved a little bit in what's been going on in your career. Let me take you back to the very beginning. I mean, I was reading your bio on your website, and you started this beauty contest thing as a bet with a boyfriend or as a joke, and didn't really seriously take that. Is that true?
Well, it absolutely is true. I'm very tall. I'm 5'11", and I reached that height when I was a young girl, and so I was very shy and somewhat awkward. And in high school, my boyfriend was one of the star athletes and a very confident young man, and still to this day a dear friend of mine. But we saw this article in a local newspaper that there was going to be a beauty pageant, and he thought that I should enter it because it'd be good for my self-esteem, build some confidence, and I thought it was a terrible idea until I read the article and said that they were going to have a talent portion. Well, I'm one of 5 children, and my mom and dad, like a lot of mothers and fathers who have a lot of kids, both had to work more than one job apiece. And so being the oldest daughter, I was the babysitter. And like all good babysitters, I stayed home and watched a lot of television. And in the process of that, I fell in love with the old musicals. And so I had this notion in my head that I could get up and sing. And so when I saw that this pageant was going to have talent, I said, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to sing. And nobody knew that I sang. I wasn't even sure that I sang, but I entered it, and I won, and I went on to Miss California, and then second runner-up to Miss America, and that kind of got the ball rolling.
I guess it did. And that's a great story. And you had never had professional singing, and all of a sudden you've built a career around singing and acting and performing. That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's just a great testimony to everyone listening that if you have an instinct, if you have a hunch about something, I was too young to stop myself, which was great. I didn't allow my thinking to get in the way of what it was that my heart was calling for. So I just let it lead, and I led with my desire, and I didn't have enough, I didn't stop to think, well, I can't. I just thought, well, of course I can. And off I was running. I was 17 years old.
Well, let me ask you this. When you performed on the Miss America, was that the first time that people had seen you sing in public?
Other than the local pageants, yes. The local pageant was Miss Redlands, and even my mom and dad, they said, well, she's going to sing. I don't know what we're going to get. And they were all sitting there kind of, with the white knuckles, and then I came out and I started singing, a little shaky, but I started singing Since I Fell for You. And I won. And it was like people were going like, I didn't know she could do that. Even my own mother and father were like, I didn't know she could do that.
That's great. So was there an agent or somebody who saw you and said, let's make this young lady into a star?
Well, not really. It wasn't quite that Lana Turner-ish. after I competed my year as Miss California, I realized that even though I had plans at that time to go back to college and become a nursery school teacher, I thought I really had a burning desire to be on more stages and singing to more audiences, and I didn't want to find myself years down the road going, gee, I wonder what would have happened if I had tried. And so a couple of the judges that were part of the Miss America and the Miss California pageant were associated with the industry, and so I sought them out for advice and counsel, and one of them was Eddie Foy III, and the other one was Mike Westmore, the great Westmore makeup dynasty.
Right.
And they suggested that I work with this musical conductor guy, and his name was Larry White, and Larry became my conductor for, I forget, 15 years or so. And to this day, still a good friend. And so that's kind of how it began. But the doors didn't start to swing open or anything. It took a long time before I finally got an agent.
So how did, coming from a beauty pageant in California as a young lady, how did Vegas come about? I mean, because that's a big stretch from California into the mainline performing in Las Vegas.
It was a big jump. After I finished my year at Miss California, I thought, well, that's great. I've got a crown on my head. I can go, and all the doors are just going to open up for me. Well, I had a rude awakening. I have actually ended up cleaning offices to pay my bills. At night, I'd clean offices, and during the day, I'd go on auditions. And one of the auditions was for this review that they were putting together for the Hacienda Hotel, actually. And this is back in the early 70s, and they were looking for someone who could sing and dance and have comedic timing. And so I heard about it through a friend of mine, and I went out on the audition, and I got the job. And so I, along with a bunch of other people, came to Las Vegas to do this show called Turn It On at the Hacienda, and it was a takeoff of Laugh-In. And the show did not do well, but I somehow got discovered by Pepper Davis, who was a talent booker at the Hacienda all those years ago, and he said, this girl's got it, And so they had me stay over and star in the next show they brought in, which was an ice skating review, and they had me be the singing star, and so I would do my 5-6 songs, and that's how I started my Vegas connection.
Well, you mentioned something in that little description that you have a comedic timing, and I think a lot of people don't realize that you do have a lot of comedy and stuff in your shows too. Is comedy anything that you ever did before, or did you just all of a sudden say something and everybody laughed and you thought, wow, that was great?
Well, my comedy comes more from just being, I think, authentic. I have the ability to just be myself now, and I think we all, if we could watch ourselves and we could see the things we say and do, it's pretty funny. And I think when we allow ourselves, and also people don't expect it because I'm tall and, and I'm more of the sex symbol type, and so they think I'm going to be out there more like Raquel Welch or something, but I'm not. I'm more like Goldie Hawn,
right?
Because I'm a bit of an accident waiting to happen sometimes, and so you just kind of let all your flaws out, and there's comedy to that. And so it's not like Jerry Seinfeld's funny, I'm not that clever, but I just have the ability to be myself, and I think people find humor in it.
Well, the thing that's interesting is that you're so talented in so many different ways. I mean, you sing, you dance, you can act, you can tell jokes. I mean, you can do it all. But I got to tell you, of all the things you've done, and the thing that I've seen recently, and I was so upset when I left, was Hairspray, and that was such a wonderful production, and you were spectacular in that role. And I was so upset to see it only last 4 months.
Well, it was such a joy. It was such a magnificent production. I mean, the show itself, Hairspray, as we know, is a phenomenal success. I mean, I was just talking with my dear friend Jerry Mitchell, who is the choreographer for Hairspray and went on to win Tony Awards for other things, directed Legally Blonde. He's a very, very busy guy on the Broadway scene, and Jerry and I first worked together in the Will Rogers Follies on Broadway. But Jerry's now in London, and they're getting ready to open the London production of Hairspray, so it's a show that people love worldwide. But when we brought it here to Vegas, we thought, well, we're going to be here for years. And they brought in everybody. They brought in all the New York people. They brought in the best, they built fantastic sets, everything. And who will ever really know what happened, if it's marketing, if it's this, if it's that, you never know. But right. The show, they weren't able to keep it open because financially they just were losing too much money. And sadly, they had to close it way too soon, I think.
I think so, too.